We all know how important saturation is in general in music production and mixing. It makes things that are skinny and uninteresting and lifeless into these rich, harmonically interesting, big sounding sounds. Sometimes, however, you need to be more precise. You need more control, and that's where multiband saturation comes into play. So one of my favorite multiband saturators is Trash 2. I love this thing. It looks a little bit like air traffic control software, but it works incredibly well. So here's what we do. We have a kick here. I'll bypass this for a second. And we have a nice sounding kick to start with. But we're just going to beef it up here with a little bit of multiband saturation. So we'll turn this on and we'll go to multiband mode. And now this has divided the kick up into 3 bands, and we can solo them up here, this little S. So those are the different bands within the kick. And, typically we'll go from low to high, and that's what we'll do here as well. So we'll go to band 1. It says we're on band 1 over here. And we'll go to saturate, turn on tape saturation, and we're going to add a little beef to this kick. So the only 2 controls you really need to deal with are drive and wet dry mix. So let's hear this with the low band of the kick saturated with tape saturation. And you can see that makes a ginormous difference. And if it's too much for you, you can adjust the drive or the wet dry mix. And I'm good with that. I think that sounds cool. Let's go to the mid-range and let's put another instance of tape saturation. And if you want to bypass just that band, it's this little B here. And that's just adding a little bit of sort of woody presence to the middle. And if we want to brighten up the top, it's so typical when you're mixing, when you listen to a kick and solo, it feels like the kick drum's bright enough. You're like, oh, I wouldn't want that any brighter. But then when it's competing with so many elements in the mix, you need extra brightness than you think sometimes. So let's brighten up the top. And my favorite brightening presets are Amp Drainer and Blues Driver. I don't know why. I don't know what those things mean, but they sound really good. So let's try a little Amp Drainer distortion or saturation on just this top. And I like it right about there. So look how quickly we dialed in 3 different custom settings of saturation on our kick, and check out the before and after. I mean, you have to love that. That is just genius. So multiband saturation feels complicated. It really isn't. Once you start to do it, you can get really quick with it, and it's an absolute game changer.